YouTube channel near you.
Well, hello there, Griff, Roger, Catherine, Susan F., Judy, Kathy A. Hello there, Denise, sliding into the rear. How's everybody doing today?
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, Moon at noon. Hey, Jeff, Penny Van. Nice to see you. Susan F., hello. Don't forget, everybody, this edition is brought to you by, USCCA. And if you are traveling across the United States and you do not know your concealed carry law, make sure.
Easy for you to say.
Right. I got the link in our comments and in our description. It's free. Just give them a shout. Thank you, USCCA, for partnering up with Bigfoot Outlaw. Greatly appreciate you. So, yeah, make sure, everybody, share it with your friends and family. So, Barb, how you doing?
I'm doing good, but just a disclaimer, the lovely state of Washington does not, apply to that. So go figure. Yeah, well, not really. If you know the local politics.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm doing good though, Grizzly. How are you?
Doing good. I'm working in the studio. Finally got all my equipment in, but one piece. So
okay,
tomorrow, a USB hub. I can pull it out of my traveling set, but I'm lazy and I don't
Yeah,
want to
but
do
you know
that.
what? And isn't it better just like to have a different set?
Yeah, it is. I want a permanent
Exactly.
set. So after that, I've got
Yeah.
my 20 terabyte hard drives, and after that, I'm going to start doing my editing. Yeah, so I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm ready.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
better to have it all than you don't have to. If you'd have to quick go out on an investigation, you have
That
all
is right. Pack it up. I don't like
with
packing. I'd
you.
rather just grab my
No, I
stuff.
don't either. I hate packing. Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah,
For any,
absolutely.
yeah, I
Hello,
know.
Cheyenne Gayheart. Welcome to the show. Round of applause for everybody. Hello, Tracy. Nice to have you all, guys.
Outstanding
So what we got going on today?
Today we have Heather Moser from, well, she's known from other things, but most of us would probably know her from Small Town Monsters. Yeah, she's a distinguished classic professor, which I did not know that until I started researching Heather. She's an author. I know, very impressive. She's an author. She's a researcher. She's really, I mean, yeah, wow. Like with all of her experience, she's a great asset. Small Town Monsters. They are a production company, and they're known for their just fascinating documents on cryptids. Some paranormal, Bigfoot, folklore. So yeah, let's. Oh,
Yeah,
are you giving him
like
some
Bigfoot
so
looks
he doesn't?
normal today.
So
As
he
long as he
doesn't.
don't start kicking and jumping around, I'm all right. So yeah, let's go ahead and bring Heather on.
Yeah.
Heather, come on down. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, long time no see.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So glad. I've never met you to talk to you, face like this face to
Right.
face before. So I'm so excited to talk to you. And I've seen you on and heard you, and yeah, you're just fascinating. I am really, really impressed too by your background, your education. How do you, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but I was how do you bridge the gap between like all your education, like academia, and like this, this field of like weird, fascinating those stuff?
Well, I use a lot of what I've learned as far as research wise and bring that to Small Town Monsters because that's first and foremost, I'm a researcher. So that is something that I learned my skill set while in college, still utilize everything that I learned to bring to STM. So trying to dig into some of the earlier accounts, trying to figure out the common threads and things like that when it comes to different cryptids and different phenomena. And I just try to integrate it that way.
Okay, awesome. So look at my notes here. So you are a producer, writer, researcher, right? With Small Town Monsters? Okay.
Yes.
And for anybody that doesn't know, they are, actually, I'll let you explain. Like what is the crux of their, mission statement or whatever? What do they do? What do they produce?
So we document stories of monsters that influence small town America for the most part, and the community around them. So as the very first documentary that came out was Minerva Monster, which is after a Bigfoot sighting that happened in the 70s here in Minerva, Ohio. And then we've expanded beyond that and brought in like Mothman and stories of UFOs. We've gotten into paranormal a little bit with the Bell Witch, the Jersey Devil, and just expanded our library since then. But still really, I mean, we've got a lot of Bigfoot content, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
Yeah, but they really, they're so well done. They're so well done research. They're so interesting. I mean, they really, I have to just huge round of applause for your work. Let's talk before, aside from Small Town Monsters, like prior, you grew up in an area that's very rich in like, in culturally, historically, like with lore and superstitions and supernatural. Can you tell us about that area and how that influenced your interests and beliefs?
So I grew up hearing stories from my mom about the house that she grew up in that was haunted. So I grew up with stories about ghosts and things. Of course, I grew up watching shows like Unsolved Mysteries, so being aware of that. But also, where I grew up wasn't far from where the Minerva monster sighting took place. And although I didn't hear about the Minerva monster sighting whenever I was younger, what I did hear about was Bigfoot constantly. And it wasn't so much a question of if Bigfoot was real, people were talking about having experiences. So it wasn't, it just was part of what was going on here. Bigfoot was around. So I grew up with that. And then just growing up in the foothills of Appalachia, there's a history of storytelling, people wanting to share spooky stories. And all of that, I think, came together to start my path in a way. It's got my interest from a young age, all of the weird stuff. And then I just followed along with it as I got older. And luckily, Small Town Monsters started. And when Minerva Monster, like I said, was the first thing, and that's what caught my attention because it was something not far from my hometown. So I'm glad that Seth started the company, honestly. It allowed me to have a career now. So, I can't ask for more than that.
We have a question already. Heather, have you ever researched the hellhounds?
So very minimally, not anything for Small Town Monsters. I've looked into hellhounds just briefly when looking into like Black Dog folklore. Back when I was writing for the Caravan Library of Lore podcast, I would write for blog posts for Lady Anne. And I went into Black Dog folklore a little bit for stuff like that, but nothing too in-depth, no.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Was there any other questions? No. Okay, good. Okay. So what part of this field are you most interested in? Do you are you drawn to cryptids or paranormal or, what would you say?
Right. My heart is totally in the paranormal, and squarely with the spirits and ghosts and things, and the idea of elementals and stuff like that. I love my cryptids, of course. I can't be in this field and not love cryptids as well, but my favorite's definitely paranormal.
Yeah, that's great. Have you I know the answer, so this is a rhetorical question, but for the viewers, have you ever investigated the paranormal?
Yes, I have. I've been on a handful of paranormal investigations. We actually had a very short-lived series for Small Town Monsters called On the Trail of Hauntings. And I know there's at least 2 episodes that are available on YouTube to the general public, but the rest of it is for our channel members. Only a handful of episodes, but we went to some locations for that, which of course is different than just going out with your friends and investigating places once you have cameras involved and so on. Yeah. But I've investigated on my own with small groups and been to places like Mansfield Reformatory here in Ohio, which is where Shawshank Redemption was filmed, Madison Seminary, Fairfield County Infirmary. I did get to go to the Lizzie Borden house with the Ladies of Feminine Macabre. Nothing happened there. Well, not really, but it was still cool to be able to say that I went, Sure. So I've been to a handful of places. Yeah.
What was your favorite place that you, again, on your own, not with Small Town Monsters, with your friends or just on your own? What would you say?
It's difficult to, it really comes down to Mansfield and Madison Seminary. Madison Seminary, I've not been there and not had something paranormal happen. Really? So that's one of those places that it's tough to say guaranteed, but it's pretty close to a guarantee that something's going to happen while you're there that's just really unexplainable. So probably Madison Seminary, but Mansfield, I am in love with just because the architecture, the structure of that building. I mean, it looks like a castle coming up to it, and it's hard to not be in love with that building every time I'm around it.
Wow. So what are some of the paranormal experiences that you had at these places?
So at Mansfield, probably the most, I mean, in all of these places, you'll get things like you might hear different noises or things moving around the floor, shadow figures, things like that. But as far as really striking things that have happened. In Mansfield, there's a place up in the it's called the West Attic, which is a long room for the entire, it's the length of the entire west wing of the prison. And it doesn't have any windows. It is literally the attic, just a very barren room. And, and that room is known for currently for like ghost lights, spirit lights, whatever you want to call them, spook lights, bopping around the room, different colored lights. And so we were up there kind of waiting for those things to manifest, and they did. We did see the various colored lights, and that was cool on its own. But the part that was really awesome was that eventually what manifested at the far end of the room was something that was in the shape of a human, but it was made of light, not like blinding light or anything, but a dim light.
Uh-oh.
No.
Darkness.
You said light. That's all it took.
Yeah.
What's the dramatic effect?
Yeah, light. It was light instead of the darkness. And it just walked back and forth. It would pace back and forth. It would come closer to us. It seemed to interact with us when we would talk to it. And this thing I've seen multiple times going to Mansfield, not just the first night. I mean, it happened multiple times the first night that I was there. But then a year or so later, when I went back with a different group, it manifested again. So a whole other group got to see it, which was super exciting. I was with Brandy from the Blondes and Booze podcast for that one, and she got to see him. So I was super stoked about that because she'd heard about it. Yeah. And then to actually have that experience was really awesome.
That's cool. So, I don't know if I've ever heard of like of a spirit manifesting like with light like that. That's really cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything like that before?
I have never seen anything like that before, since that's the only place that it's ever happened. And I still don't know what to, I have difficulty even thinking of what it would be called. I can't think in folklore. I can't think of a similar story, but it was, like I said, it wasn't blinding or anything. It was just like a glow, but it was emanating enough light that whenever it would walk over by the wall, you could see that it was by the wall because the light would reflect off the wall.
Gosh, that's just
wow. Yeah. No idea. But that, I mean, things like that have happened.
Has anything ever happened that on these, really in any of these investigations that has really kind of like challenged your beliefs, or like, wow, I don't, like, I'm not sure about that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that entity in general did for sure, because it shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So the first time that I saw it, I was terrified. Just I couldn't fathom what I was seeing. But thankfully I wasn't the only one there, so I had other people to talk this through and to help me realize, you're not insane for seeing this thing. But that would be one of them. I've had situations where when under, like while doing the Estes method, if you're familiar with the Estes method, in this like trance-like state, I've lost time where apparently I've said things and done things that I don't recall saying or doing, like threatening other people in the group and not being aware that I was doing that. And when they pull me out of it, then that was a whole issue as well. They were asking me if I had been messing with them, and I thought they were messing with me because they're like, you were threatening us and you were saying, I'm like, no, I wasn't. Are you kidding me? And that kind of stuff I'm not a big fan of. That's unsettling.
Yes, I can imagine it would be.
The shadow creatures that like do the crawling thing. Oh, not a fan of the crawling. Anything that crawls.
Super creepy, right? Oh,
yeah. I'm not a fan of that. So all of that stuff.
Gosh, that really just, and I saw a video on YouTube recently, like this. Oh, I don't know. It's just so creepy. All right. So we'll talk about your work with Small Town Monsters. How long have you been with them? Were you there from the very beginning kind of, or?
No, I wasn't. The first thing that I worked on was Momo the Missouri Monster, and I feel like that. See, time is so weird since COVID. It was
I
either
agree.
2019 or 2020. It was somewhere in there. It was right around the beginning of COVID times that I had started to get involved.
Okay.
It was either right before or immediately when it was starting. I know that by the time the shutdown was happening, I was fully assisting with research and stuff. But so somewhere around there. It's been about 5 years, I suppose, 4 or 5 years.
All right. So Lady Wolf, hi Lady Wolf. She would like to know, what is the strangest or worst thing you've ever seen?
Let's see. The strangest or worst thing that I've ever seen. I mean, that, like, again, that light thing is very difficult to top. But I've seen the shadow figures are weird. Some of them, I mean, it gets to a point with this may sound ridiculous, but if people have gone on multiple investigations, the shadow figure thing, it's not that exciting after a while, because shadow figures tend to be pretty common, it seems like, at least in my experience. So after a while, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's another shadow figure. But some of them, there's one at Madison Seminary that we saw that didn't look like a person. It just was like a blob with like things coming out of it. That was not cool to see. That was upstairs in the asylum part of Madison Seminary, for anybody who's familiar with it. So that kind of thing. I have not seen a cryptid. I haven't seen Bigfoot or anything like that. I'm honestly not sure that I would want to, because I feel like it would terrify me. I know, I mean, I've been close to them, but no, not like, look how cute though, right? Look how adorable. But I don't think I'd want to see anything. I know I certainly wouldn't want to see anything like a dog man or anything like that. That would just ruin me. But no, I haven't seen any cryptids, so it's tough to see anything like that.
Okay. All right. So with your I want to talk about a little bit about the Kickstarter program that you have with Small Town Monsters, in case anybody's aware or wants to get involved, because it's a great thing to have if you have a small production company, obviously.
Yeah, so every February, the month of February, we run a Kickstarter, and that helps fund us for the year. And it also, what it does is, for backing us and supporting us, then in exchange you get all kinds of perks. So you get all of our movies, you get early access to them, which has been a boon for a lot of people recently. If our distribution company has failed to put things out in a proper, like, timely manner, you get access to it before anybody else. You get copies of all of our films when they do get released. There's t-shirts, there's all kinds of bonus things that come along. And this year we actually were able to get enough funding that we were able to put out an entire new film on physical media, which is Cursed Waters, The Legend of Ogopogo, which will be premiering we'll be premiering that at Monster Fest this year. So that was one of our bonuses for Kickstarter this year. We were able to get to a good funding level for that.
So how do people contact? Who do they contact, or how do they, if they're interested in that membership?
So if you were interested in Kickstarter, that would have been a February only thing. And we blasted all over our social medias at February, leading up to February, and then throughout February to get people to back it. Yeah.
Okay, great. What project with Small Town Monsters did you find most interesting?
That's got to be a hard question.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. You can tell me, like, if there's, a couple of them.
Yeah, it's well, goodness. That's a tough one for sure, because my heart is still very much with Skinwalker Howl of the Rougarou, even though I didn't get to go on the film trip for that, but I did do the research for it, and I helped. I wrote the narration for it and was thoroughly invested in that film. And that was the first one where I was given the freedom to contact all of the witnesses, and set up the schedule and so on. So that was my first time actually making connections with people. And so that one will always be close to my heart as far as that goes, getting close with people down in Louisiana and Homa area. And this was before the hurricane came and just ruined certain areas down there. It's just destroyed places. But as far as places that I've been able to go to, it's tough to beat anything for the On the Trail of Bigfoot series because we've gone to such beautiful locations. So when we did On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Last Frontier and Land of the Missing, that was up in Alaska. We were there for 17 days. And that's the longest shoot we ever had, and it will be the longest shoot we've ever done, because it was too much. It was too long away from our kids, really is what it came down to. But you can't beat Alaska. But we did go to British Columbia for On the Trail of Bigfoot, the origin, and that was pretty close to Alaska levels of beauty there. So things like that's all awesome. But I love every production that we've done. I like having the connection with new people and hearing their stories. And it always seems like a gift when people are willing to share their experiences with us. And that's just a really good feeling.
Do you have activity at home?
I have had, so are you talking like Bigfoot activity or ghostly activity? Okay. Yes, we have stuff that happens here at the house. Why are you asking?
2537, an orb went by you.
Oh, really?
2537 to your right.
2537. All right. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff happens here at this house. A lot of the stuff that happens is in the upstairs. There is like a shadow figure upstairs that likes to hang over the bed, like walk up to the side of the bed and hang over the bed. It's really irritating.
I know.
Yeah. What do you mean?
It's just frustrating.
What do you mean frustrating? I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple times it startles you, and then after that, it's just annoying. Really, it's like,
annoying. No, you're annoying me. Get away.
Get away. You're annoying.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there a history like with your house, do you think, that's causing this, or is it just, it is what it is?
So prior to moving in this house, my mother-in-law had lived here for decades, and she had activity when she was here as well. So it definitely predates us being in this house. I don't know what triggered it all. If I have a feeling that it's something with the land less than the house itself, but that's just a feeling that I have. I don't know.
So Rogers is asking, has Heather and Small Town Monsters ever checked things out that are possessed, like mirrors, dolls, and such?
Small Town Monsters has not, no. Heather has, yes.
Okay. All right. So tell us about.
I actually, that's kind of what got me into Small Town Monsters in general, was that I was doing research on cursed objects, particularly letters that people write whenever they have taken an object from a place that's supposedly haunted. They bring it home, everything falls apart, and then they mail it back. So I was doing research on the rocks that people take from the Bell Witch Cave down in Adams, Tennessee.
Oh, geez.
Right. I was doing research on that and the letters that people write, because if you go down to the Bell Witch Cave, they have letters all over the gift shop of people, that have sent stuff back.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was researching that and had been looking into the Bell Witch legend, and then Seth had announced that they were going to do a Bell Witch movie for Small Town Monsters. So I contacted him and said, hey, if you need a researcher, I will help you with that. And then he said, okay, cool. Well, let's start you with Momo. And so that was my beginning of Small Town Monsters, was looking into cursed objects. So if it weren't for cursed objects, maybe I wouldn't be involved with Small Town Monsters. But so I've looked into that. One thing that they also have down there in Adams, Tennessee, at the Bell Witch Cave, the owner and her daughter will buy porcelain dolls, like antique porcelain dolls, and then they will paint their faces up to look grotesque or zombie-like or whatever, and then they sell those at the gift shop.
Oh, no.
Right. Well, prior to me going down there to see the cave for the first time, I had visited a place up here, and it was in Moundsville, West Virginia. It's currently closed, but there was a museum up here called the Archive of the Afterlife, run by Steve Hummel, and it was filled with objects that were supposedly cursed. And one thing they had there was one of those dolls from the cave that somebody had mailed to the museum because they said they bought it, and they were tired of all the bites and scratches that they had received. And so instead of sending it back to the cave, they sent it to the museum, I guess, for safekeeping. So anyway, I was aware that these dolls would be there. When I went down to study the letters on the walls, and I met with Chris Kirby, who is the owner, and talked with her, she had explained that not only were rocks being sent back, but the dolls were being sent back at times as well. And I'm like, well, what did you do with the dolls? Well, if they get the dolls, they just put them back on the shelf and sell them again. So
oh god,
that's terrible.
Oh no. But so all this to say, when we went down there, I had my kids with me, and my youngest daughter, who at the time was,
you did not buy one.
We did.
Oh.
She's 4 or 5 years old at the time. My daughter went down, and she went into the gift shop and saw one. It happened to be at eye level, saw it and wanted that one, and they took it off the shelf for her and gave it to her. When I walked into the gift shop, my daughter was already sitting on the bench holding this doll. And the girl at the register, because I'd already been there all day, like taking notes on these letters and stuff, so they knew my name and everything. When I walked in, the girl at the register said, Heather, I'm so sorry. I tried to convince her to get a different doll. And I'm like, what do you mean? Get a different doll? What's wrong with this doll? She said, well, last week that doll was on the top shelf, which is probably about 6 feet off the ground. Oh, no. And she said, we had a room full of people, and that doll like threw itself from the top shelf. It went several feet forward to the ground and somehow didn't break, even though it's a porcelain doll.
Oh, wow.
And she said, we picked it up, we put it on a lower shelf because we thought if it was going to start acting up, then at least it may not break if it falls from the lower shelf. Yeah. But a week later, that puts that doll at my daughter's eye level. Oh my God. She sees that doll and she wants it. So, yeah. So I asked her, I'm like, is this the one you want? And she said, yeah. She said she wants to come home with us because
I tell you,
she's ugly and nobody will take her home.
Oh my gosh.
Right. She's like, she's afraid that nobody will take her home. So I want to take her home. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, okay, her name is Sasha. Oh. And so we have Sasha here. And the only thing that's happened with Sasha, other than my daughter, well, she hasn't done it recently, but she used to want to get her off the shelf and sit with her and talk to her and stuff. But the only weird things that have happened was that there was a battery operated candle that even if you turned it off, if it was by Sasha, it would be on. It would just turn on.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was it. But then, so that was prior to being involved with Small Town Monsters that all of that had happened. So then fast forward a year or so, and the guys go down to Adams, Tennessee. I've helped with the research. They're going down to Tennessee to do the Bell Witch filming and by this point I'd already made friends with the owner of the cave and one of the tour guides. And one of the tour guides they interviewed. Her name's Kara. So I had called Kara and I said, hey, are you guys still selling those dolls down there? And she said, yeah. I said, well, do me a favor, go into the gift shop, look around, and whichever one kind of speaks to you that says, it seems like it wants to come home to Ohio, get that doll, give it to the guys, and make them bring it home to me. But I didn't tell them that this was happening. And so when they got down there and she shows up for her interview and she's got this doll, then I get texts or calls from the guys and they're like, what are you doing? We don't want to bring this thing home. But they did. They brought it home and she made it, even though they apparently didn't take very good care of her. I heard they just kind of shoved her in the back seat or whatever, but she didn't break. So she's home as well. And
does she have a name?
That's my story of the dolls. Yeah, her name's Blair. We named her Blair after the Blair Witch.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
So your daughter is what, 6? How old is she? 6, 7?
Right now she's 9.
Oh,
but at the time she was only 4 or 5. Yeah.
Wow. Does she do you think she has some, like abilities?
Yeah, it's been really weird. Things got really odd around the time of the shutdown, the COVID shutdown, when the world stopped and everybody was home, and she would say that she was seeing stuff in the house, and she would describe stuff, and it was weird. Like the first time that it happened, we were just hanging out in the living room, and she just kind of sat up and stared up the staircase. Wow. And she said something along the lines of, what is he doing here? Like, who is that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she starts describing this man that she said was standing on the staircase. And I'm like, I don't see anybody. What's he doing? She's like, well, he's just looking around, but he doesn't look well. He looks sick. Like, I think we should take him to the hospital or whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't see anything there. But I mean, so stuff like that would happen. And I didn't want to feed into it because I didn't want to make things worse, but I also didn't want to tell her that she was just seeing stuff either, because I didn't want her to feel like something was wrong.
Sure.
So it was a really fine line during that time period, but it was really heavy during the shutdown. There was a lot of activity that was happening that she seemed to be seeing. Since then, since we've moved here, it happens every once in a while, but it's not as bad as it was. I don't know if she's getting more used to it or if it's just not happening as much. I'm not really sure.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that is a difficult, I experienced that with our youngest daughter too. And it's just difficult. Yeah. That's, like you said, a fine line between just normalizing it because you don't want them to feel like they're, crazy or making things up or whatever. But then, like also not feeding into it. Interesting.
Right.
Is there anything that she's like, any sort of fears that she has that you think could be associated with that or no?
No, she seems pretty fearless. She actually, I've got 3 children, and of the 3, she seems to be like the newest one. I mean, she literally is the youngest, but she seems to be the newest to this world. And I say that because my older 2, when they were around 3 years old, separate, I mean, they're 2 years apart, but both of them at the age of 3 had a story that they told me about their life before this family.
Oh, wow.
And they were the 2 totally different stories, and things that we hadn't shared with them or anything, but my oldest did it. And then my middle child did it. And it was both at the age of 3. Neither of them have memories of that, but I wrote it down. And I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Stockton and his 13 Past Midnight channel on YouTube, but I had written it and then I narrated it. He made it on video, so it's on YouTube somewhere.
Hey,
but both of them,
tell us about what they said.
So my oldest, like I said, she was 3, and I can remember very clearly. It was after Christmas because there was snow on the ground. We were leaving my parents' house, and we'd come into the little town of Carrollton. We were at a stoplight, and there was a pedestrian light that was flashing to, not walk or whatever. And she looked out the window and she said, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's the pedestrian sign. You're not supposed to walk when that's lit up, or that particular thing is lit up."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I had forgotten that." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, when I was really old,
Oh my gosh.
I saw the light. It looked like that, and I forgot what it meant, but I knew that I wanted to get home, and my house was on the other side of the street. So I walked across the street." She's like, "And I got hit by a car."
Oh my God.
And she said, "And it was really scary. And I remember being in a room." Like, she went through and she started sobbing while she was telling the story.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like, "It was scary and it hurt. And I remember waking up in a room that was dark and cold." And she's like, "I didn't have anybody. There was no family." I guess because of how old she was, because she kept reiterating how old she was when this had happened.
Oh my God.
But she was like, "There was no one there, and I was scared, and I was alone, and I was cold." She said, "And then there was a bright light, and then I was with this family."
Oh my goodness. Whoa, that's great.
Yeah. So that was something. I mean, we're in the car, and I ended up getting her to stop talking about it because she was like hyperventilating. That's how upset
getting
she
yourself
was.
too worked up. Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I get it. Let's stop.
Yeah,
and but I wrote it down anyway so that I wouldn't forget it. And then a couple years later, her brother was 3, and he was sitting in the car with me while we were waiting on her to get out of kindergarten. He was in preschool, but only for half days. And so the second half of the day, he'd be with me when I'd go to pick her up from school. So he's sitting in the car with me. We're in the parking lot, and I had my phone out, and he said he saw something on my phone. He goes, "Oh, my Nana used to have that game, or a game like that, or something that was on my phone." And I'm like, "Your Nana?" Because we don't use that term. It's like, we just says grandma. He's always said grandma. I'm like, "Who's Nana?" And he was like, she was my other grandma before this one. And I'm like, "What does that mean? What, tell me about her." And he said, "Well, I lived with her." And he goes into how, like, she was super nice. They lived together, and that somebody had broken into the house. And he said he tried to save grandma, but he couldn't. And that had made him really mad that whoever it was got away. He's like, "I was really mad. And I remember getting into my car and driving really, really fast. And I remember hitting a tree." And he said, "When I hit the tree, my body went like this. And I remember him throwing himself like against the chair in the seat in the car. But he was like, my body went like this." He said, "And then everything went dark. And then I remember going into your belly." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he said, he's like, "I remember going into your belly." I said, "What was I doing?" And he said, "You were sitting in the living room watching TV." And I was like, wow. And now the weird thing about that is that when my first contraction with him hit, I was literally sitting in the living room watching wrestling when the first contraction hit. But he was like, I remember that you were sitting in the living room whenever I got into your belly, and I was ready to be a part of my new family.
Oh my gosh.
So both of them had stories like that. They don't remember, like I said, they don't remember them now. Because I can ask them, they don't even remember saying them. But my youngest one never had a story like that. That's why I feel like she's new. She never told me a story, anything like that. But
yeah, what 3-year-old would say that,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I have 4 kids, and I'm not one of them. I mean, the youngest, like I said, things have happened, but nothing like that is just incredible. You hear about kids, and that's not something that a 3-year-old, they might write, like, make up this and that, but that's very, very, both of them are very detail filled. And then especially with your daughter, with like getting herself so upset, she was all about the emotions. Wow. That's, oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. That is so interesting. So can you tell us about any current or future projects kind of going on that you can share about with Small Town Monsters?
Yeah, so Aaron Deese just wrote a book that was just released called Dogman Territory, because we publish books now.
Oh, awesome.
It was just released. And on May 17th, Cryptid Chupacabra comes out, so it's up for pre-order right now. The most recent release was American Werewolves 2, Skinwalkers. So that's available for purchase. You can find that. And on YouTube, we've got all kinds of stuff running. I mean, we've got a new show every week out on YouTube. It just rotates between which show it is. But and we've got podcasts as well that come out weekly. So YouTube is a good place to watch for a lot of our new content. It's just always something new, really.
So so most of it, are there any other platforms that you can find? Yeah, that's right. That's the parents are gonna be like, get away from my child.
Yeah, right. Get out of here. Yeah, so you can watch our stuff. We have stuff on YouTube, or YouTube, of course, then Amazon. You can watch our movies on Amazon or Vudu, Tubi. We've got some stuff on Tubi. Pretty soon we'll have our own channel out there. It's in the early stages of that.
Nice.
So that'll be launched.
What's your YouTube channel? Denise is asking. What's your YouTube channel?
It's just Small Town Monsters.
Okay.
It's just Small Town Monsters.
Okay.
So yeah, I like that. Gonna ask every 3-year-old about a past life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fascinating. We need to do a show.
Oh, Hunting Grounds. Sorry, Hunting Grounds is the name of the book, not Dogman Territory. My brain is fried. Oh, Dogman Territory is the movie that's associated with it.
So where can people? That's okay. You're in good company. Where can people buy the book? Is that through? Where's that available through?
So you can buy that on Amazon, or you can buy it on our website, smalltownmonsters.com.
Okay. All right. And you said that's Hunting Ground.
Yeah, Hunting Grounds. My bad, Erin. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So aside from your work with Small Town Monsters, is there anything you're currently involved in as far as, little projects, or do you do podcasts yourself?
Yeah, so I have a podcast on Small Town Monsters Network called The Lore You Know.
Oh, nice.
So that comes out every other week. And then on the off weeks that I don't have an episode coming out, Aaron Deese has an episode of House of Monsters that comes out. So there's that. And as far as other projects go, I'm always writing. It's been a while since I've had anything out recently, but if you go to look at the Feminine Macabre series in volumes 1, 3, and 5, I have stories in that. And the first one, it's about cursed objects, the letters from the Bell Witch Cave. And the third one, it is about headless ghosts. Oh. And then in the 5th volume, it's about Goatman. Okay. So, yeah, short stories every once in a while.
Let's see. I saw that so have you written any books?
Not yet. Okay. But hopefully soon.
Right. Because you haven't, I saw that you contribute to several blogs as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention those?
Yeah. So if you go to the Caravan Library of Lore, some of the old blog posts, especially around the time of COVID, whenever we were all locked in, I was able to write a lot more. So I've got blog posts there. Shannon LeGros Into the Fray, Weird Writer blog. There are posts from there. Those are all from a few years ago. So yeah, I've got stuff there. And the Dark Village anthology, you can find that on Amazon as well. I've got a short story in there about the Wendigo. Okay. So I just try to get stuff out there when I can.
That's so interesting. Wow. So does anybody in the chat have any questions? Let's get those questions in. And then before, we'll do this first, not that we're going to let you go yet, but how can everybody, find you if they want to get in, if maybe, get in touch with you?
Yeah. So you can email me, heather@smalltownmonsters.com. Or you can find me on Instagram. My handle on Instagram is Pagan Historian. I'm on Instagram a lot.
Okay, Pagan.
Or on Facebook, I'm just under Heather Moser, but there are other Heather Mosers. So I guess look for my profile
Yeah,
picture.
yeah. You were just and I don't know if you can you talk about that at all? I'm sorry, I have to plug my laptop in. You were in the LBL recently, was that right? With a group?
Yeah, last fall.
Can you tell us anything about that? Did you have anything that
Yeah, so that'll be what Dogman Territory, the movie, covers. Not the book. The book was Hunting Grounds, and Aaron covers some of that as well in the book, so you can get pieces of that from the book as well, because that's all about Land Between the Lakes. But yeah, we were there filming over the course of, I feel like the trip itself was 5 days, although 5 days isn't really the length of time that we have because each 2 of those days are travel to and from. So it was like 3 days of filming. But we filmed projects for Alexander Petikoff, Eli Watson, and then Dogman Territory, the movie. So we got a lot of stuff done there. And we hung out with Joe and Jesse from Hellbent Holler while we were there. And of course, Martin Groves, Daryl Denton. So it was a good time with really good people.
What do you know the history of the LBL? Because we talk about that on the show, but we're not quite sure, how this all the negativity associated with it. Do you know anything about that?
So we dive into that a little bit, well, more than a little bit, in Hunting Grounds and Dogman Territory as well. So I don't want to get into it too much, but the idea in general is that there's just been a lot of negativity associated with that place in general. So it kind of just becomes part of the entity of LBL. It's just been associated with negative things for quite some time now. People being forcibly removed from the area begins some of the negative ties to it, of course. Yes. But I think that it's just a factor of a lot of elements feeding into one centralized location.
Okay. Did you have any experiences yourself when you were there that you can share? Okay.
I did not. That's one thing when we're actually out filming, it's tough to really experience the place too, because you're busy trying to make sure that you're getting the interviews done, or you're getting, certain shots and stuff. So a lot of the time that I remember being out in LBL, I was following along behind the camera crew and trying to be really quiet on the leaves as I was walking. And when they'd stop, I'd stop because you didn't want that to come through on the mics. Yeah. So that was my biggest thing.
Now, Catherine's mentioning, which, most of us know, there was a supposed massacre in 1982. Do you, what do you think about that? Do you have any opinions on that?
I think something happened. I don't know if it is exactly the narrative that's out there now, because I think that there are certainly elements that have probably been added to the story as time has gone on, and it's become almost this mythic story. I don't know. I think that something has probably happened, but I don't know what that would be, and I don't know the extent of it. There's a lot of stuff that you can't verify either, which makes it difficult.
Yeah, yes. That's what I've heard. Wow. Grizzly, do you have any?
Brian Barber, for the audio listeners, is asking, is Dogman Territory being filmed in Michigan?
Oh, that one was in LBL. So we don't have any Dogman content for Michigan yet.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's not coming.
Is Heather, are you related to Dave Moser, who's a cryptid paranormal researcher?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe distantly.
Yeah. And Lady Wolf is agreeing with you.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to share, Heather? Because I said I did want you to be able to,
get some time. Well, the biggest thing that I can think of that's coming up is June 28th and 29th in Canton, Ohio. We're having Monster Fest. So if anybody can make it to Canton, that would be great. Come hang out with us. We're going to have
Thank you,
speakers,
Kathy.
vendors, workshops, live podcasts, all kinds of fun stuff happening. So, and a premiere, the Cursed Waters movie is premiering on the 28th at the historic Canton Palace Theater. And then the next day is Monster Fest. So that would be great to see people there.
Sounds great. Now, the Cursed Waters, what is that about?
Ogopogo, lake monster from Lake Okanagan up in British Columbia.
Oh, fun. Wow. Oh, I can't wait to see that one. What do you think about, well, you probably can't. What is your opinion of that? Like after doing that, I mean, do you have an opinion or are you allowed to say?
I don't have an opinion on lake monsters in general. They're cool, a cool thought. I think there's a lot to the Ogopogo story that is going to be explored in the movie.
Cool.
That adds a lot of depth to it, which gives me more of a reason to like lake monsters than normally. For some reason, lake monsters are just a cryptid that I've never really cared about much. I don't know why. It's just not something that has ever really been interesting to me, but Ogopogo changes that. So.
Oh, that's great. Cool. Looking forward to that. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Heather. Again, thank you so much. This has been so fantastic. And if there's anything that you ever want to, hop on the show, just message me and, update us on anything. I would love that. That'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. Of course. All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night. Coast to coast, around the world, everybody. We'll see you at 10 o'clock. Take care.
Thanks, again, Heather. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.